So what we're going to do, what we're going to look at today is what money blocks are. Why the heck do we even have them? And then how to let go of them. And then what are the actually sources, the reasons we created limiting beliefs about wealth, and how to avoid any unconscious income saboteurs that we are running, those destructive habits or concepts around money. And my promise to you is that by the end of today meeting, not only you will know why you may be unconsciously repelling money, which is crazy, right? But we all do that. But you'll learn how to overcome this so that you can not only make the money that you want, but most of the business owners are always on the mission. They want to change the world. They want to have an impact. So we want to help you get all the income that you need to get that impact in the world. So let's ask you a question. Does this happen to you ever? Do you have those clients that seem to be coming and going, or it just takes so much effort to get a new client? So if that's you, put clients in the chat. All right. So we're going to use those code words so we will figure out what's going on in your mind. So clients, if you seem to be fighting too hard to get them. Also, does it happen that your prospects seem to always want a discount from you? Maybe a free offer or some kind of bargain. And at the end, they might even say no. If that's you, put the bargain in the chat. All right. And by the way, no shame. We're all going through these blocks. We just have to figure out what's going on, right? So bargain for clients that seem to always want a cheaper service or product from you. Or perhaps you're stuck at the same income level. You might have some incremental increase, but it's not where you want to be, or you're not getting that exponential jump. So if that's you, put stuck in the chat. And I don't see a lot of comments here. So I know you guys came for the money story, and the more you participate, the more you shift. So just help me out and let's play this game, money game. All right. And then the next one is maybe you have enough, but you're always worried, am I going to have enough for a rainy day? Because, doomsday is coming and crisis may appear, another recession. So you tend to be more on an anxious side. If that's you, put a rainy day. And perhaps you have a lot of money, but you feel guilty about being wealthy because that's just not very Christian of you, or whatever it may be in the back of your head. If that's you, put guilty in the chat. So the bottom line is that it's very possible that you are nowhere near your earning potential. And because of that, your impact is limited. And most people just want to have fun making money because you're opening your business to enjoy it, didn't you? So if any of this sounds like you, I've got the good news for you, because here's the reason why we all struggle with money at certain point in our life. It's simply because you haven't been able to identify the unconscious, the hidden limiting beliefs around money. And that includes whatever mental attachment. Mental meaning your thoughts, the way you're thinking about things, but also negative emotions around money, like fear, shame, guilt, sadness, anxiety, lust, apathy, pride. I mean, you name it. And once you do, your life will change, because that's when it's easier to attract new clients. You actually feel confident about what you do, and you feel excited because now your entrepreneurial journey is an expression of your passion, and you're making money doing what you love. So you may be wondering, why am I so passionate about helping my clients understand how they may be limiting themselves? Well, I had a very humble beginnings. You can tell by my accent, I'm not from Texas originally, although I absolutely love it. I grew up in Poland during times of communism. This is the picture literally from my city. And it was a very complicated time, complicated place. So some of you may know what that means. Some of you may have had an amazing childhood. But today, what I'm going to try to teach you is that where you came from often dictates the results you're getting in your adulthood. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I grew up at times where poverty was everywhere. We literally had empty shelves, just like in America after Thanksgiving sale, right? For different reasons. So we were taught that struggle was good. It was virtuous to be poor, and we had to keep our heads down. And this is why I left Poland, came to America, because I really wanted this opportunity for expansion, individualism, and entrepreneurship. And over the next 20 years, I had phenomenal career in global business consulting, traveling around the world. I even opened my own global consulting company so that I could help American manufacturers export their products. So one would say life is good, right? From ex-communist girl to this capitalism and having good life. But have you noticed that if you were brought up in childhood with perhaps your parents telling you, eat your rice and beans because we don't have enough money. Or maybe you remember going to a store and your mother saying, we don't have money for that toy. You have to wait till Christmas. Is it possible that these beliefs would come back when you are an adult and start influencing you? So that's really what happened to me. When my business skyrocketed and I was making in a month what my father used to make in a year, I suddenly became so unworthy of my own success. I literally felt uncomfortable with money. I felt uncomfortable with being, uh, comfortable in every possible way financially. I felt like I wasn't a good daddy's girl because he struggled and I didn't. So I started sabotaging my own business. I would not charge thousands of dollars for contracts that I completed. I would go to trade shows and have people asking me to work for them because I had an incredible reputation in the industry. But then I would not follow up with them. I would not ask for business, even though they were asking me. So I was literally trying to bring myself down financially back to the level of comfort. And that's when I realized that something was happening, something deep, that this upbringing that I had and the values that were instilled in me were still resonating within me. So I usually say that communism was haunting me even after I left Poland. And I know for you, this sounds like a great story, right? Well, none of you are from a communist country, but communism is really a metaphor for any environment during growing up that influenced you. It could have been your Uncle Harry who said, you're just not smart enough, not good enough, get yourself a husband. Or it could have been a college professor that said, what do you mean you want to career in finances? I think just stick to something easy, right? Those things, those sayings, they heavily influence us. And even though it's an external limitation, once we internalize it, it becomes our operating system. And that's exactly what happened to me. My childhood beliefs started resonating within my adult life and telling me how much I was allowed to achieve. Now, the good news is that once I realized what was going on through the moment of incredible intuition, which some people call divine download, I was able to receive this modality, this system, which has a process to release our limiting beliefs, release the emotions anchored to those negative self-concepts, and permanently heal that self-perception so we can expand. So I did the next logical thing. I disbanded my global business consulting. I opened Unlock Your Success mentorship programs. And since then, I've served thousands of entrepreneurs that, like me, want to accelerate their growth, want to reach the next level of their income, and most importantly, feel good about it. So let's talk about how we unlock that path to prosperity. What are the keys to making the money that you want and feeling good about it? Well, the key number one is we need to understand our own relationship with money. So get those fingers warmed up, except for Tamara, because she's driving. And let's start putting some concepts in the chat. What does money represent to you? If you had to put it in one or two words, what comes to mind? Amy says tool, very good. Sarah says security, also a tool. Linda says freedom and convenience. Yeah. What else? Dan, how about you? Tamara talks about options. Wonderful. And these are pretty common answers because a lot of times we will hear freedom, peace, stability, security, safety, right? And I'm going to ask you this question. How can something physical, and often not so physical since everything's digital now, have a representation for your life? I'm going to go a little bit philosophical here. So let's say possibilities. If I'm saying that my possibilities are tied to money, then I just shut down the very possibilities that I seek because now they are dependent on something external from me. So instead of saying, I can create the possibilities for me in my life, now I delegated that to something outside of me. Or let's say we're talking about, again, options, peace. A lot of people, when they use the word freedom, I will ask them, how are you? And by the way, everybody does that. It's a most popular response, freedom, right? But how do we unconsciously limit ourselves using money as an excuse? So if you say that the money represents stability, again, how am I removing stability from my life by giving it to something external? And by the way, this presentation today might as well be about food or relationships or anything in our life that's external that we gave so much meaning to that it now is running our life and starts limiting us. Okay, so pay attention to what you say money represents to you, because essentially what that means is that I'm using money as a scapegoat. I'm trying to feel comfortable projecting a problem on money. So let me give you an example for this. Because that's an example of self-sabotage using an external factor. Let's say you want to be, or you think that being a public speaker is going to be very good for business, but you're afraid of speaking. You're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of putting yourself out there. Maybe you're uncomfortable being visible. And opportunity shows up on a doorstep to learn how to be a magnificent speaker. And that opportunity is $10,000. A lot of times people will say, well, I can't afford it. And that's really convenient, isn't it? Because we know that when we find a pair of shoes that we really want, conveniently, money will always find its way to the cash register, doesn't it? Right? Maybe not for them, but for ladies, I would say, heck yeah. So that means that when we want something, we will find money for it. But when we're afraid, when there's something deeper going on, some kind of resistance, we will often project it on money and say, no, you know what? I'm not going to expand my business. I will not take a risk. I will not invest a large amount of money because, I don't have it. But what if what's really going on is the fear of speaking, fear of visibility, fear of judgment? And we're just using money as a projection, right? So when I talk about using money as a scapegoat, I'm inviting you to really dig deep into what is my relationship with money? Am I making it into this monster that controls my life? A lot of times people say, I don't go on a vacation because I don't have money. Well, guess what? If you've got a family member with a backyard, you can borrow a tent, set it up in somebody's backyard, and have glamping, camping, 3 days off, which will be your vacation. So there are ways of not limiting yourself if you take power away from money, right? So how do we give power away to external factors? And again, today we're talking about money, but sometimes we do this with other things. We do it with relationships, with food, with material belongings. We're always telling that the external world is somehow controlling what's going on within us. How does that resonate so far? Any thoughts, any ideas? Does anyone want to raise your hand? And by the way, we will delete your personal remarks. So don't worry about it. But I do want to make it very interactive because when we talk, we shift, right? Plus, we're working energetically. So, how does this resonate? Using money as a scapegoat or giving your power unconsciously away to something external? Does not resonate. Let's see. Amy says, makes sense. Rework our thoughts when addressing money. Wonderful. And by the way, we will do the breakthrough for everyone, right? We'll give it time for everyone to talk and understand what's going on. But I'm just trying to warm you up to get the weeds loosened up so that when we work with money consciousness, we're open to more. And we understand why we may have been pushing it away a bit, right? And it happens at all income levels, by the way. My clients range all the way to $10 million, and they're still pushing the money away. All right, so let's keep going. So, as I mentioned, most people unconsciously at certain point will start repelling money. They'll be hitting the beliefs around every income level. And my invitation to you today is to kind of figure out, am I looking at money as a monster, a boogeyman, somebody I'm afraid of? Or is it my money honey that makes my life super sweet? And unfortunately, if you think about it, most people do both because we have fears around money. There's not going to be enough. Recession will hit. I will lose the money. I will invest and it will be bad investment. Or I will spend money on a digital software tool and it will be a flop. I will not know how to use it. Or I will launch Facebook ads campaign and nobody will show up. There are all these thoughts going through our head, which really say, I am afraid of money. That's an emotion of fear. On the other hand, everybody says, money, 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 show me the money. Everybody knows the movie with Cuba Jr., I think I'm gonna butcher his last name, Tommy Maguire, right? Where it says, show me the money. So on the one hand, we're sticking the hand out and saying, universe, I want high-paying clients. I want multi-million-dollar business. And on the other hand, we're like, wait a second, I'm afraid of money. I've got unresolved issues around money. Do I really want to run $1 million business? That's a lot of people looking at me. And maybe I've got employees and I have to take care of them. And there are all these issues. So it's a push and pull relationship. So what happens when you have a cart, like like a horse cart, and you've got a horse attached to one end and another one to the other? Are you going anywhere? Well, you'll go a little bit here if that horse is stronger than the other. And then maybe the other one will pull you here. And then you're back here and you're back here. And what that really shows is the typical entrepreneurial yo-yo relationship with money. We're getting more, we get excited, and oops, we're going down. And then up and down, and up and down, like a roller coaster in Six Flags over Texas. Highly recommended, by the way. So let's talk back, let's look back at what is your true relationship. I wanna, as fun game, for you to put in the chat, if you were looking at 100% for Money Monster or 100% for Money Honey, what's the dynamic? Is it only 20% of money being a monster to you, so you're pushing it away, 80%, I really love it? Is it a reverse? Is it 50-50? What is your relationship? So monster on the left and honey on the right. What is it? What's the dynamic? How much you're afraid of money or don't like it because it's evil, it's bad, and allegedly does not grow on trees. And then how much it is good. Linda says 100% honey. I bet it is. But for most of us, it's not quite, right? So Mary Beth says 75% monster, 25% honey. That's pretty much average, by the way. I've done these workshops now since 2015, and that's usually where it gets. Some days even 60-40. 60 monster, 40 honey. Sarah says honey. Wonderful. So if it's really honey, why Sarah add unlock your money story or the money mindset success? You want more, right? So even if we want more money and we're not there yet, something is missing, right? Something needs a little bit of tweaking. All right, Amy's 50-50. Wonderful. So let's keep going. What's going on with this relationship with money? This is where we need to look at unconscious money ceilings, which we have many. So you may ask, well, what is it? Well, it is like a thermostat where you set it to certain temperature. And once, let's say, it's heating up too much, you become overheated and you need to bring it down. And if you wonder, why would I have limitations around money? Everybody wants it, right? Well, is it possible that growing up, you were surrounded by all kinds of people? And by all kinds of people, I usually mean those the closest to us, parents, grandparents, uncles, maybe people in church, extended family. And what if they had their own struggles that may have influenced what you believe about money? And maybe you have heard that money doesn't grow on trees. Maybe you heard that money corrupts, that financial security comes from a paycheck. You need to go and work for a corporation. And that if you are honest, you need to work hard for it, right? So you say, I work hard for my money. What else have you heard growing up? Let's see. Let's put something in the chat or unmute yourself and tell us What's an interesting saying about money that you have heard since your childhood? I know there's plenty. I've gone over 200 compiled. One of my funniest one was when the client said her mother used to tell her when she wanted a toy or anything, her mother would say, "Mommy's bank is closed." Right?
I heard
How
a lot when I was growing up about money leading to corruption. If someone had a lot of money, it made my parents wonder, how they got that money. There was always sort of a little bit of maybe unsaid suspicion or criticism around, opulent wealth. There was also a feeling that opulent wealth could have been better used in solving world issues, giving to, orphans and the poor and the needy and widows and that type of thing, that there are better and higher uses for money than simply storing it away in a bank. And I think where I finally got to is feeling like I have choices once I have money, and I can choose to use that money based on my values, based on what's important to me. So giving to those um, initiatives and projects and those not-for-profits that really resonate with me, that are really important to me, I now have the ability to do that. I have the ability to help out friends and family, which I've done probably a bit too much. So I do have now freedom and choice, whereas I feel like I would not have had I just listened to all the fear and jealousy and things like that of my family growing up that were remarkably poor. I mean, my whole family, not just my immediate family, my whole family was just incredibly impoverished. And so they had this fear and apprehension around money. And I just kept thinking, bring it on, because I want that choice. I want that opportunity to choose how I spend that money and what I do with it. And if I want to go spend $100,000 on artwork, I'm going to go do that. If I want to spend $100,000, I don't know, buying a wing of a new hospital, I'm going to do that. I mean, $100,000 not enough money for that, but you get the idea, right? And so I just didn't buy into all that, and I knew right on, like early, that my family was just jealous because they were so desperate, and they were condemning money because they didn't have it, and therefore they were suspicious of anyone that did.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I love that you used the word condemn because, oh my goodness, imagine me coming from a Catholic environment. That's really, rich people are evil, money's evil, right? We have all these pre-programmed beliefs. And what I really love, Linda, is that you said you chose to opt out from that
Yes.
belief system. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're going to lead you there to deleting those programs and giving yourself permission to thrive. So I want to acknowledge that Mary Beth said that rich people lived in a certain area of town called Mortgage Hill, meant something not nice. It was confusing, but it was always said in a tone of disdain. So again, we've got something wrong with those rich people, right? And she says, my mom would always say that she could sew a piece of clothing. I want it in a store better and not buy it. Exactly. And this has effect on us. I've noticed that when my clients will say, for example, that their parents always sought a bargain in a store, that in life he couldn't imagine investing in his business because investment was not a bargain. He was always looking for cheapest solution, which sometimes the cheapest solution is just the cheapest solution, meaning it gives you little results. Sometimes we have to invest more so we get more in return. So knowing these unconscious ways of showing up in life that are rooted in your childhood is really important, because then we can, just like Linda, liberate ourselves from those beliefs. And unfortunately, science proves that by the age of 7, we have created a whole blueprint on life, including on what money represents to us and how much we will make. And that's why I call these money allergies, because they are limiting what we believe we're capable of accomplishing. They limit us how we show up in the world. Often they stem from these memories, experiences, whatever parents had going on, religious values. And ultimately, they create a fake identity, because that's not even you. It's just something you heard and you internalized and you made yours. And here's the problem: we can never outperform what we perceive ourselves to be capable of. And that's not just about money, that's about everything in life and business. So, what I've done is, over decade and a half of working with money consciousness of my clients, I accumulated all these beliefs, all these money allergies that my clients share with me, and most importantly, provide a way for you to replace them with something that actually empowers you to make more money. And this is something that we go over in a Financial Freedom Unleashed Intensive, which is a 5-hour workshop focused on clearing these money allergies, so you no longer sneeze with your income. And I'll tell you about it in just a second. But I also want to ask you, imagine what would have changed in your life and your business last year if you actually looked at these money consciousness rewiring practices and actually replaced limiting beliefs with a brain that is a champion for making money. And how much more money would you make if you allowed yourself to quit these limiting beliefs, to delete them, just like Linda did? So I want to share with you a story of one of my clients, and to talk to you about this unconscious money ceiling. Like, what is it? One of my clients has a marketing agency, and he and his wife started talking to me because they couldn't get past $1 million. Every time they came close, something happened. They were back to 800, 900,000. And they're brilliant marketers. So they were trying to figure out, well, what's going on? Why we're not pushing through? What we were able to uncover is that my client's father also had a business. And when that business reached $1 million, something happened. There was a bad partner, bad decisions were made, and business collapsed. They went bankrupt. So my client remembers moving out of the family home, losing all the toys, living with extended family, and being ashamed of the circumstances that they were in. So let me ask you this question. When my client is now thinking about his business and his $1 million opportunity in revenue, what do you think is going on through his head? Is it possible that he's thinking about his childhood and what $1 million caused to his life? Is it possible that the reason he kept his revenue below $1 million because he believes that once he passes that mark, something will happen to business and it will go bankrupt or will be some other disaster? You see, we hold these stories from childhood that are so heavily influencing what we're doing in business. Another client of mine has a printing company, and prior to the financial um, collapse of 2008, he was doing 1 million.2. So his life was pretty nice financially. And then during the financial crisis, he sold all his printing presses and kept just one. By the time he came across my universe, so to speak, he was making around 375,000 a year. And he started talking to me because he was trying to understand why, even decades later, he's not recovering that income level that he's used to. I mean, he clearly is a good businessman. He knows how to do it, right? So, of course, we dove into his personal story to understand what's going on. And it turns out that my client, while enjoying this significant income, was living in personal hell. He had so many employees, so many clients that it was overwhelming. And he particularly did not like dealing with all these employees. He kept telling me about the issues, people who are sick, people who need maternity leaves, the all the OSHA, I think it's called the requirements that he had to constantly look into. And when the business went down to slightly over 250,000, that all went away. There was just one office manager with one printing machine, steady set of clients that were ongoing, and his life became super nice. So he was unconsciously blocking himself from going back to that previous revenue level because he saw that as taking away his personal freedom, being invaded by these employees and their stories and their requirements. So what we had to do is change his money story. We had to give him a new paradigm where running a big business and even having multiple employees meant simply hiring a better office manager and removing him from these kind of operations, hiring the salesperson, the business development person, so that he could just still go to networking meetings, have his ribs, and enjoy his life. And guess what? He was able to bounce back because there was no longer need to put that thermostat to the low level so that his life would not be negatively affected. So, what stories are you running in your mind when you're thinking about tripling or quadrupling your income? What is stopping you? What are you afraid of unconsciously? Or simply what makes you uncomfortable? And a lot of these unconscious beliefs do not get triggered until we really go after that, right? Because think about it. If you have an unconscious belief about $500,000 a year, if you're not there, there's no need for the resistance to be triggered. So each one of us are like onions. We have limiting concepts about everything, limiting concepts for how good a speaker you can be, limiting concept for how many clients can you serve in a month, limiting beliefs for can you attract a good joint venture partner? Can you be good at Facebook advertising? And unless we go into Facebook advertising, we will never trigger the response. So how would you know that you are triggering your limiting beliefs, that you're hitting your limits? Well, that shouldn't be difficult to figure out. One, you start having negative emotions, right? Like, oh my goodness, this is too much. I'm uncomfortable. I'm overwhelmed. You've got fear running. Perhaps this is my favorite. It happens to all of my clients. You've got a huge influx of money in clients, and suddenly the roof is leaking. So you got $15,000 in, $20,000 out, back to the equilibrium. right? So what we're doing is, or you get a speeding ticket. What we're doing unconsciously when there is more money coming in than we're comfortable with, we need to equalize, just like in physics, the law of joint containers, right? Comfort and money coming in, it has to equalize. So you also will start noticing that you procrastinate. You may look for distractions. You know, suddenly Facebook advertising campaign is more important than following up with your clients, or you just spend a lot of time on social media. You'll find the ways to pull yourself out of the money making activities because, again, you're trying to rise to the level of the desire. So, does anyone experience that ever? That money coming from one hand, leaving through another, or feeling like you want to procrastinate, that your avoidance, even denial, like, oh, no, there's no problem. Yeah, $10 million. Oh, I can do that. Yeah, sure. I'm making $1,000 a year, but yeah, my goal is $10 million within 12 months, right?
What I often hear is, I love what Mary Beth said, procrastination, but what I also hear is that sometimes it does take investment. And I always hear, well, I need to wait until this has happened and that has happened and this has taken place before I'll invest in my business. It could be this, right? They need support with this kind of coaching, but they'll say, well, I'm going to wait until this other thing happens and I have this revenue coming in and then I'll get to it. Or there are a lot of people who will come to me actually asking for money. And I'm out of that business now. I just don't do that anymore. But there's no accountability for what does that really mean for you. If I give you this investment or this amount of money, what is the return on that? What is it that you're going to hold yourself accountable for? So it feels to me that there's this fear of actually investing in yourself, and also combined with the lack of accountability to actually repay the investment or the loan or the whatever that they're asking for. They're looking for free money, and that I think just speaks again to mindset, that perhaps they don't have the ability to invest in themselves and in their business to go to that next level. And they would rather ask for money and ask for an investment, ask for a loan, ask for whatever, than actually bootstrap it or create it on their own, and very little focus on repayment of that investment or loan or whatever it is, which I just don't do anymore.
And that's brilliant, by the way, because um, when we rescue somebody, they rarely actually learn the lesson, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask everyone to just think through, what is your specific limiting belief about money that is holding you back? Let's just take a moment and think about that. And then how much would it be worth it to you to let it go? Right? So I want to speed up a little bit because I want to leave a lot of time for us to work on it, but I also want to give you a foundation for creating mindset of prosperity and next steps that you can take. So I just want to share with you that you probably noticed by now that what you believe about yourself internally is what you're going to create externally. So this is one of the exercises that I invite my clients to do. You do not have to share this today, but I'm going to ask you to write your income goal in the first column for the next 12 months. Again, nobody's going to be asked to share the numbers, so this is for you. The second column, I'm going to ask you to triple whatever's in the first column. And the last one, I would like to invite you to make it 10 times what the first one is. And what I'm going to ask you to do now is without disclosing your numbers, no need. I want to talk about the columns. Which one makes you uneasy? The first one, second, or third? Go ahead and put in the chat. Is it the first one that you've created for yourself, the next 12-month goal? Is it the second or the last one? Thank you, Amy. Amy says the third one. Okay. So let's play with that. How does the second one make you feel? And by the way, you can unmute yourself and share. In the Financial Freedom Unleashed Intensive, we talk all the time. We can't stop talking. Why? Because when we talk, the brain listens and starts observing our own limitations, right? Or starts noticing what the problem might be. It's noticing red flags. So, Amy, how does the second column make you feel? The second one was...
My first number is reasonable. Second number, doubling it, is like a dream. But I know it's a lot more work because I know there's going to be a lot of work to get to my first number. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me more unsure, I guess, that there would be a lot of moving parts to get to that number.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it for a moment. So the first program that you immediately are running is, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right? So it's guaranteed that it's going to be a lot of work because there's no other way to create it without a lot of other work.
Right. Because I know even my first number, I've got to get work, but it's doable. Whereas the other one is more, yeah, like I said, more, not necessarily a lot of work, but a lot more
clients, more hours, right?
Yeah, and bringing in people, resources, definitely would need different mentorship. And yeah, it's a whole lot of other moving parts that would have to get to that number.
Yeah. So how do you feel about me giving you a lot more work, Amy?
Actually, that doesn't bother me. It's scary, but if I knew I could do it and the work's that coming, I'll make it work and let's just keep going. And then you're like, okay, yeah.
All right. So we got rid of the scary, the fear. It's going to be a lot of work. Now we're going into confidence because you said, I'm not sure I can do it, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we're peeling the onion. We're asking, gotcha, what's really going on, right? Because, for example, the fastest way to make more money, if you want to double your income, you double your rates, right? So there is a possibility. Like in a quantum field of unlimited possibilities, there's possibility for everything, right? So what we're trying to figure out is just your set of beliefs around doubling or tripling your income. Number one, for those of you that didn't put second column as giving you most trepidation, it tells me that it's too low. Because notice I said double or triple, whatever was the first column. If the first column was reasonable and small, then the second column would be pretty, wouldn't be that life-shattering either, right? So we're playing safe. But when we play safe, can we get big results? For those of you that showed up to our Quantum Leap Breakthrough Power Hour, which was last month, we talked about If you need big, massive, exponential growth, you have to do something completely different, right? You need to show up differently because 2 plus 2 always equals 4. If you want 10, something will have to change. So we're peeling the money story to understand, well, how am I really feeling about it? Is anyone here who felt uncomfortable with the second column? That was too much. Or doubting, is it possible? Can I get there? Again, if there isn't, then your first column is way too small. You're running on easy, right? And I'm not saying that we want hardship, but what I'm looking for is for the trigger, for the brain to say, oh, wait a second. No, we're not comfortable with this. Because when we start having a reaction, we can do something about it. We could, for example, ask ourselves a simple question. Why am I not comfortable? What am I thinking? What's going through my mind when I think about that much money? Do I want that much money? And if I don't, why? Should I want more money? Or should I just keep it where I am? Right? These conversations are not happening if we're not triggered. So we can't fix it. We can't fix the problem when we cannot see it. Would you agree? And that is the problem when working with our minds. It's a lot of times we really don't know what's going on under the hood. And yet, would it make sense not to make what you should be making? I mean, you're in business. Business should be providing you with financial ease. So what's going on? And how and why do we get stuck? You see, I explain this to my clients using this concept of a plant. When the plant is not doing well, most people will immediately start watering it. And that's what entrepreneurs do. Oh my goodness, my cash flow is low. I need to immediately send out a sales email, try to get people, and I am desperate because my cash flow is low. And oh my goodness, and the clients feel desperation miles ahead, and they don't want to work with us because it's uncomfortable. So that's like watering the plant, thinking that that's the problem. But if it doesn't solve the problem, what's the next best thing? Well, you might be putting some fertilizer in. Maybe just the soil doesn't have all these minerals for the plant. But what if you water it and you fertilize it, like telling yourself with affirmations, I am rich, I am rich, I am rich, and you're staring at your checking account and sure is not rich. Your brain's going to notice the difference, right? So affirmation don't work if you don't get down to the soil level. And soil represents these concepts we are running within ourselves around money, what we're capable of accomplishing. Who am I when I show up in business? Do I even believe in myself, or am I running on an imposter syndrome? And until we clear the soil, the plant will keep struggling because the problem is not water. The problem is not the fertilizer. The problem is acidity of the soil. And what happens when you know that the problem is the soil? You need to yank the plant out of it. You need to give it a brand new mindset, a brand new concept of what you're capable of. And this is exactly what I do when I speak with you, when I ask you about how are you feeling. We're passing the leaves, we're passing the roots, we're getting to the soil level. And unfortunately, most people will never get that deep. So these stories will continue to run their lives and influence how much they are able to create, revenue-wise, relationships-wise. And unless you identify these hidden money blocks, you'll be unconsciously limiting your potential. So what is it within you that you need to look at and understand, identify, so you could push yourself to that next level of your potential? And what would happen if you actually cleared these unconscious limitations around financial success? So for those of you who have not downloaded my guide yet, this is my gift to you. I'll put it in the chat in a second. Just point it at the QR code. And here I'm introducing you to the most prevalent 4 core beliefs and behaviors around money that tend to sabotage where you are now. And it's written in a very fun tone so that, we don't have to work with money consciousness and be so serious about it. But it also happens that I have something really cool coming up. It's a financial freedom intensive. As I mentioned, it's happening on October 6th, I believe, or 8th. And it is a 5-hour workshop where we dig into your individual money story. We dig into your experiences. We peel the layers so that you will understand exactly what money beliefs are controlling your income. And we will also talk about the money ceiling. What is it for you? How many of those you have? How we gonna bust through it and give you this powerful money mindset where all the concepts like money is the root of all evil will be replaced is I am in charge of how I utilize my money, which by the way is exactly what Linda said when she said, when I have money, I can donate, I can support the causes. I control whether money is used for good or evil. Money itself is not, right? And what makes it different is that I will read every person's energy and create and work with you on your unique money story.